Hey Trent Knights! If you're watching, this is my frogs video for the week of May 18th. So let's find out what we're learning about this week in our packets. Reading, I can read words with the sound of OR, which says or. I can make connections when I read. For writing, I can write an opinion about a story. That's going to be fun. And math, one of my favorite things, I can read a bar graph and use the data to solve problems. So those are the targets we're going to be working on this week, and we're just going to dive right in. On our packet this week, you'll see on page 3, we have some phonics practice for the words that you're going to be learning the word part OR. Last week we learned a couple of different combinations with R at the end, and this week we're focusing on OR. So let's play a game called Mystery Word. So if you're playing this at home, you could do this with some of the words on your sort with your families. And so we're going to start by writing the first word on our board, which is, read it with me, or. Now watch what happens if I add a sound at the beginning of or. It's now a new word, or 4. And this is not like the number 4. This is spelled like I am making this video for you. And then what would happen if I added a at the end? Let's read it again. Form. Can you fill out this form for me? And then the next thing, what if I erase my and I put a t? Now the word is more fun. Fort. Let's build a fort. And what happens if I take down my fort and I add a sh at the beginning? Read it with me. Short. Ooh, that was short. And now I'm going to take off the t and put a What is this word? Shorn. A sheep, when they get their fur or their wool shaved off, we say they are freshly shorn. They got a haircut. And my last mystery word, I'm just going to take off that S. And what do I have? Horn. And that concludes mystery word. So isn't it fun to see how if we change just a couple of letters, we make new mystery words? You can play that game by using some of the words on the sort on that page that I showed you. Okay, now I'm going to go back into the share screen, and we're going to talk about our next reading goal, which is to make connections when you read. Look at all these really good pages of work you could do. Remember, you're going to just send me 1 page for reading, 1 page for writing, and 1 page for math per week. Take a picture of it and text it to me, and that'll be great. You can send me more if you want to. I'd love to see what you're working on. Okay, so here we go. We've got good ideas. This is the story. And we're going to make some connections while we read it. There's 3 kinds of connections we're going to talk about. Self to text, which means how I feel and what's happening in the story. Text to text, which is when you're thinking about this story and another story, and how they're the same or maybe different. And then world to text, how you can make a connection between the story we're reading and the world at large. So I'm going to read this story to you, and I want you to be thinking about connections you have too. This is called Good Ideas. Anyone can invent. Ben Franklin invented a stove and glasses. But even kids can invent. Here is one true story. As I read that first part, I start making connections immediately. Ben Franklin, I'm thankful he made those glasses. I wouldn't be able to see very well if he didn't. So that is kind of a self-to-text connection where I'm thinking about something about me and the story and how I'm connected to it. When you make these connections, it makes you a better reader, and it also makes the story more interesting. So that's why we do it. Let's keep reading. KK liked winter. Ah, this must be the kid that's going to invent something. She liked to play outside, but her hands got so cold in the snow. She wanted to spend more time in the snow. KK had a good idea. She made a fleece cuff, but it did not work too well. It still let the snow in. KK made some changes. The cuff worked much better than before. Soon, lots of people wore her cuff. KK's idea was a hit. Okay, so I made a self-to-text connection with the glasses at the beginning. So now I'm going to try a text-to-text connection. Have you ever played the video game Minecraft? Well, I have with my kids, and we actually read some books about Minecraft and the invention of it and how you can invent a world in this video game. So that made me think of this story, how it's about inventions and things that Ben Franklin made, and KK, the student, making cuffs, which are those little warm parts on your jacket to keep the snow out. It made me think of an invention that was made that was useful for lots of people. And that's the same as the Minecraft books. It's really fun, and it can kind of stretch your brain if you're playing that game. And then the last connection, the type, is the world to text. So I'm just thinking about the world in general and how people they think about problems they have, and then they make an invention to make life better and easier. So I'm going to challenge you to think of a world to text connection, kind of like Ben Franklin's glasses, with something that someone has invented that has made life better for you. So now I'm going to stop the share so that I can show you our next goal, which is for writing. And this week, we are going to be continuing on with our writing of opinions. And then in your packet, you'll see that your teacher wants you to pick either the good ideas story or the other story that's in there, and write your opinion, what you think about the story. If you liked it or didn't like it. That's what's fun about an opinion, is you can tell what you want and there's no right or wrong answer. So I picked the story we just read, Good Ideas. So here's what I wrote for my opinion. And you could use my ideas as a sentence starter for you if you need some help. I liked the story, Good Ideas, because it made me think of exciting inventions. Also, so there's a transition word and I've got my comma. The story inspired me to invent more recipes. So that was a connection that I made that I didn't tell you about yet. I wanted to save it. One of the inventions that I've made is I love to cook and bake. And I invented a new recipe for cookies this week that had coconut and oatmeal and almond butter and chocolate chips and craisins. Woo, it had a lot of stuff in it, and it turned out really good. So that was my invention, and I used what I knew about making cookies to create this recipe for myself. So then I leave my readers thinking with this question, and I'm really curious when you write yours, if you'll answer it. What problem could you solve with making an invention of your own? So have you ever made an invention? Have you thought about it? I bet you can make something really cool. Okay, and now we're going to move on to math this week. Last week, I showed you some math videos, and I realized that maybe you don't know how to get to these math videos on your own. So the first thing I want to do is show you how to do that if you're at home. And I will have some videos assigned for you this week. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the East Valley homepage. And you're going to go to this Families tab. And you're going to scroll down to Family Math Resources. You're going to choose the grade that you are in, or the grade that we're working on, which this one is first grade. And then you're going to click on Think Central. Now, before I do that, I just want to show you at the bottom of the page, there's a couple of other links you could click on to help you get even better at these skills. But today we're just going to do the one that I showed you last week, which were the Go Math videos. So when you click on Think Central, it's going to lead you to this page to sign in. And your sign in is going to be your email address. And your password is your 6-digit student ID number. So if you need help finding out what either of those two things are, just email or text me and I will find it for you. So once you log in, it'll take you right to the Go Math page and you'll see the things that I've assigned for the week. Okay, but if you don't do that, that is okay, because in our packet we have some really good math activities. And I'm really excited, sorry for all the scrolling, because we're going to talk about graphing. And I like graphs because they are very visual. So the kind of graph that we're going to talk about is called a bar graph. Can you say that? Bar graph. And if you look at the picture of the bar graph, you'll see why they call it a bar graph, because there are bars that compare information, or a fancy word for that is data, for each category of thing that you're studying. So it says in a bar graph, each bar shows information or data. You can compare the lengths of the bars. What title describes this graph? So we're actually not going to do this problem. We're going to go up. I just wanted to show you the definition of the bar graph. And the first page is here for model and draw. And you can see it's page 22 in your packet. So here's some features of the bar graph. There's the title right there for this one. This is called Children at the Playground. And the most important thing that you can do when you're reading a graph is to really take a look at all of the information. This one is similar to a bar graph because see, there's the little squares, but they also added some pictures. So this is a picture graph, to use pictures to show information or data. So as I'm reading it, I see swings and slide, and I see some little people here. It says each person stands for one child. That's why it's so important to read all the information, because what if each of these stood for like 10 kids? That would change the data or information in the bar graph or picture graph. But this time it only stands for one child. It says there are blank children on the swings. So you can see the number 4 there. But if I didn't know, I could go up and I can count 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 children on the swing. And now I'm going to look at slide. There are blank children on the slide. How many do you see? 1, 2. So I would write that there are 2 children on the slide. And now we're going to compare the information. We're going to look at it side by side. There are more children on the, so the word more means longer amounts up here in the bars. And I can see that the swings have more children than the slide. So I would write there are more children on the swings. Okay, now the next thing you can do is you can use a bar graph to solve a problem. And that is what our goal is this week. So when you're working on this page, I'm going to do the first question with you, and then you get to do the rest on your own or with the help of your family member. So remember, the first thing we do is we read all of the information. Our favorite animal at the zoo. Cool, I love animals. Zebras, lions, whoa, that's a lot. Seals, Each person stands for one child, so just like the other one we were looking at. And then it says, write an equation, write a number sentence to solve the problem. How many children chose zebras and seals together? Well, I have my whiteboard here. And right here is where you would write this information. So if I look up at zebras, I'm going to count. How many people like the zebras the best? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then see that little circle there? They want you to write in the equation. So is it going to be a plus where we're adding them together, or is it going to be a minus? Are we seeing which one is more or less? Well, I see the keyword all together. How many chose them all together? And that means plus. So we're going to add these numbers. So 5 plus, how many for seals? Just 1. So I would write 1 right here. And then this other circle here is for equals. So we'll write that. And then we're going to add the numbers together. 5 plus 1 equals 6. And so those are the kinds of numbers that we would have on there. I want you to please send me a picture of your work. I hope you have a great day and have fun this week. Bye-bye.